In another controversial tactic to curb immigration, President Trump has announced plans to give the US military control of hundreds of miles of the southern border. The plan establishes a 60-foot wide buffer zone at the border, stretching from California to New Mexico. That land would now be considered a military base, allowing US forces to apprehend any migrants there and turn them over to immigration agents. So for more on this, let's bring in senior Pentagon reporter Louis Martinez. Louis, the logistics of this, apart from anything else, seem complicated and resource intensive. What more can you tell us about this plan?
No, that's right, James. Right now, the United States has about 10,000 troops along the border on the southwest border mission with Mexico. What they are talking about is establishing temporarily, at least initially, a swath of area east of Fort Huachuca, which is southeast of Tucson, Arizona, that stretches all the way across New Mexico into El Paso. But it's only going to be on public lands, James, and that not private lands and not on Native American Indian reservations. Instead, it's just going to be on those public lands, and what it's going to be is very resource heavy, as you said, because essentially any construction, any kind of patrolling that takes place there is going to be essentially the idea that this is a military base. There will be signs on both sides of the border of that 60-foot wide area in Spanish and in English saying any trespassers will be detained. And essentially that is the concept here, that you will use U.S. military personnel to detain any trespassers. But logistically speaking, it's going to be a big effort, and it's unclear exactly how this is going to play out. I understand that signs have been purchased by the U.S. Army and that concertina wire is going to be laid out along that stretch all the way through New Mexico. But we expect that the Interior Department today is going to authorize that transfer of that property, that public property, to the Defense Department so it can establish this new military base.
I feel like we're asking this question a lot at the moment, but is this even legal? Does the law prevent the military from being used as a domestic police force in this country?
There is the law, Posse Comitatus, which was established after the Civil War, that prevents the U.S. military from being used for law enforcement purposes. But there's also something called the Insurrection Act, which can be invoked, which allows U.S. military personnel to be used for law enforcement under emergency situations. That is not what's happening here. What is happening here, as some critics say, is an end around those two laws, and essentially it's a novel way of using verbiage to essentially say that you can transfer federal land from one department to another, and therefore that military personnel would do whatever they would do at any military base, which is protect their own base and from any trespassing, and they'll detain somebody, and just as they would at any military base, they will then turn them over to law enforcement, which in this case would be CBP. But again, I think there might probably be some legal challenges to this, James, just as you pointed out, because some questions are being raised about the legality of this and whether it is really an end around those two laws, or it could be, as the administration is saying, is just this is what we're doing because this is an emergency and we are dealing with a crisis at the border. One of the things that we have seen over the last week is that the number of crossings of undocumented migrants across the border of the United States has dropped to really, really low levels not seen in over a year.
Legal and logistic problems. We'll see if this happens. Louis Martinez for the moment. Thank you.